Well, all of her followers were childer.
There is a long and convoluted story about Ekaterina and how she ended up being branded as this. Long story, less long. She was ousted and nearly put in final death by members of the Black Hand after speaking out against what she saw was the diluted, watered-down Sabbat, and how, they weren't true to any sort of ideas at all what the Sabbat were originally after. They were just after carnage and bloodshed and dumb shit. And she actually ended up being saved and rescued during the sort of pandemonium that resulted. And whenever she awoke, she wasn't sure who her benefactor was. She wasn't sure whether Polonia was responsible for nearly putting her in final death, so she rebranded herself as a wayward Camarilla, who had, joined in the Battle of New York, which is how, in the very few interactions and, sort of information you've got about her, it's all been vague and mysterious. I described her youthish appearance with the veil that appears over her. That took me a lot of time to find an appropriate veiled image I thought would work for her, and shit like that. And yeah, she's one of the few vampires of a numerically lower generation than 8 living in the city. Because she is actually Ekaterina the Wise, and that's why she doesn't want to become prince either, because she doesn't want that coming out.
She doesn't want Kristoff coming back.
Alright, any that are 8th generation that are the peers of David and Byron?
Peers in regards to fellow neonates?
In regards to generation.
Let's see here. Let me think. 8th generation, Theo Bell. He's actually listed as 9th generation. I decided that I would actually make him of equal generation for the purposes of this. Just like I changed Lambach Ruthen's generation. Shit, I don't remember everyone's generation. I think Calibros is 8th or 9th. Gerard is probably 9th. He might have been 8th. I forgot my setting on that. The Imp is 8th. The former High Regent Lord Ephraim Wainwright. I think Thomas Arturo is 9th. There's not that many. There are definitely some among the 200 plus kindred. It's just, they're really in that sort of like 8th, 9th, maybe 10th at best. Even Aisling Sturbridge herself is 10th generation. As I told you guys coming into this, like, 8th, even 9th generation, even 10th generation is a major fucking deal here in New York City where there are so few elders.
It actually, I think it bears mentioning that David was embraced at 9th generation.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Which was a major fucking deal for him, too. Even before he ate his sire and became 8th generation, 9th generation puts you significantly ahead in terms of steps decane-wise than many of the other players here, and 8th generation even more so. Very few of the people here are actually at that sort of level.
If his sire had been less of a monstrous cunt, he probably would have gotten a pretty big step up politically because of that, too.
But yeah, in regards to the sort of bloodline, the fact that both David and Byron are 8th generation is definitely something that makes a significant difference, and it's something that you want to keep secret. Because 95% of the kindred here are of a higher numeric generation than yours. So they might want to eat you.
The prince would want to eat me.
Yes, there are people that might want to eat you.
People higher up politically, but lower in, or higher in generation.
I still think it's, even though you have these 8th and 9th generation people running around, there's still people running around in our 13th gen that are still, doing badass things.
Yeah.
Sure.
As I said, the sort of like upper echelon here, when this city tends to be 10th generation. very few people. I think Boss Callahan is 8th or ninth. I have this stuff written down in my notes and also the New York by Night book, and a few of them on my tokens themselves, I just don't feel like checking it. But the answer to your question is few.
Oh, what generation was Kadir? If you said it, I missed.
I thought he was like 10th.
That would make sense.
9th or 10th, yeah. He definitely was an 8. The Archon Theo Bell, as listed, was an 8th. He was 9th, and I put him 8th. I'm like, no, 8th.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that several weeks ago. I said, I just noticed that Theo is only 9. He's like, are you sure?
Yep.
Well, I guess not.
Yeah, that's what I asked you. I even gave him fucking, like, that Iron Will shit. And I'm like, nah, no one's fucking dominating him. He's scripted and written as too goddamn stubborn and obstinate. I'm not allowing it to happen, ever.
Theo's got a really cool backstory, too.
Eh.
But yeah, I think that long-term, that might be the sort of thing that David might shoot for if he, doesn't die in the next year or two. Becoming an Archon.
I toyed around with Marcus trying to become closer with Theo to maybe, work under Theo. But I'm just like, nah. As much as Marcus likes Theo, and Marcus does like Theo, he doesn't like that kind. He doesn't like doing that kind of work.
But yeah, like I said, if David survives.
I mean, we're the guys who write in the story, or rather, you guys are the ones who are writing the story now. What ending does David Green have, Aaron? Do you actually think that whatever request Sevalod might make of him next year, he would either agree with it and keep living, or maybe fail to resist the compulsion and not be able to walk off into the sunset? Or do you think he walks off into the sunrise, or sun whatever, and dies?
Well, I like the romantic image of walking into the next sunrise, but I don't think that... I think that it'd be more expedient to use those nice aggravated damage claws to rip the stone out. But, I don't know. It honestly depends on what exactly Sevalod would be commanding him. If it's sufficiently morally reprehensible, David would right then, right there, do his best to either rip the stone out or jam his claws into his chest and try and use potence to crush it.
I really don't know what the request would be. I don't think it would be anything. It's not within the scope of the story, so there's probably nothing you can...
Yeah, he's gonna kind of stay in a, quantum state of either dead or alive.
Oh my god, it's Schrodinger's Nosferatu.
Yep.
It's something I hadn't decided personally, because I knew a year would be beyond the scope of the story. In essence, I'm not sure whether Sevalod would feel compelled to just throw out anything and see whether David could actually muster up the self-control and the courage required to meet final death with the stone influencing his thoughts and controlling him, or whether Sevalod would be willing to play the slow, I got forever to corrupt you approach, and see whether he could subtly influence David and be like the whole, "Oh look, I turned and corrupted another idealist. You know how many people said they would never do the things you said you'd never do?" Yeah. I'm not sure, actually, how Sevalot would feel about the situation. I think he's so mercurial and so unstable enough that he would leave it... it would be a spontaneous decision for him.
So yeah, David Green's life rests on the whims of a monster.
Well, technically, David Green himself is a monster, so it doesn't change much.
That's a different scale of monster entirely.
Yeah, you have to bring out the log paper to scale that up.
We're talking
Except-
orders of magnitude here.
I've certainly made this session, at least I feel it. I have no sense of basis or of how, like, an actual Vampire the Masquerade session would go. But in regards to the fact that you guys are in a setting surrounded mostly by your peers rather than elders, and your sires and the prince and what have you. In addition to that, these whole sort of like the Zamitzi blanket, with the Ouroboros and what have you, has given me carte blanche to write whatever fucked up crazy shit that could happen. And so just when you guys think you have a handle on, damn it, I'm finally gonna meet final death, I just like pitch in the goddamn spanner. Oh yeah, sure, whatever, it's a demon heart. No, it's not actually a demon heart, it's actually the ancient experiment of a Zamitzi elder. What? And it's just me fucking around. I don't know whether this is just like repressed creativity that's been able to come to light in a system that I hate or what. I honestly don't know. I don't know what this says about me as a person that I came up with all these things, because let me tell you what, this fucking Blackstone does not exist in the book.
I noticed you saying things like, in an actual game of Vampire the Masquerade, and this was. Just wanna put that out there. Literally all vampire storytellers have to go through the shit you went through when it comes to making shit up.
I don't think it's shit. I immensely enjoy the whole sort of design process where, that resource isn't tapped. I'm not on, like, Monster Manual 5, where I'm like, what if we take a platypus and an eagle and give it improved grapple? We'll see where it goes. Instead, I'm like, what if I take a snowman or what if I take this goddamn sort of, insert the horrific description I gave for the hulking monstrosity, which I still do have in its token.
I more meant the rules shit.
Rule shit. But whenever it comes to the whole sort of ad-libbing and creativity process, that well is not yet tapped for me. Especially in, a system so vague as VtM, with all the Zamitzi running about in such a vast world.
You could do anything.
I did anything. I made a werewolf the president of a monopolistic cab company.
So where was all that dirt from? Under Central Park.
Oh, that's from the homeland. Imported over the process of several hundred years.
Right, so what area is he actually from? I mean, I assume somewhere within the general vicinity of Transylvania, but that's a lot of places.
Yeah, I had decided from the Eastern Europe area, maybe like around present-day Romania. I hadn't decided exactly where. I didn't think it was relevant because it would never come up.
Fair enough.
When and
I
why
was
did
sort
he?
of,
I was just going to ask, when and why did he immigrate? I mean, was that something you ever thought to answer either?
was a way to safeguard himself as well as his research, as well as to do something that, his peers weren't doing, coming to the New World. And so, while this land was still so rich and Dutch settlers were still here, he came and made his place, a new grandiose haven, completely outside of the realm and theater of other European vampires. Of course, there were vampires living among, like, the Native Americans too, but perhaps not quite prepared for Vsevolod Červený. That was back in his more stable years.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping to eventually get back a report on the soil sample that I gave to Theo Bell, so that I could contact Nosferatu, if any, that live in the region he's from, who might be able to tell stories of a historical Vsevolod Červený.
I'm pretty sure most of them would either be dead because there's the old clan just hanging around, or have mostly dead.
I don't know. I mean, a lot of the regional European powers have just tons of lore and history that the vampires in the New World just don't have access to.
It just seems like something that would probably never come up, to be honest.
I don't know. Never got a chance to check.
No, because I didn't think about it all that much. I had a sense that he would have been a commoner of some sorts, no one whose name would have been written down at the very least and sort of tracked, like a historical type character, who just ended up becoming a kindred or K-Knight, as he would have it, and the rest is that. Of course, there's a lot of detail and life and history about what he would have done over the next 1,300 years that I tried not to think about, because he's just one character among many, and I don't have the luxury of spending so much time on one character. He got a character sheet. That's pretty fucking rare for me. I can't make character sheets for everyone, goddammit. Not when there's 200 kindred in this goddamn city.
But when you got his fucking rock in your chest, that might motivate you to want to know more about how the monster ticks and how he got to be how and where he is.
You can just explain it as just another psychosis of the vampire condition. Or he's just a meat scene. That can explain a lot.
And I think that would be David's idealism grasping at straws there. I mean, it's something that he could try. I just, as a storyteller, wouldn't think that it would pan out at all. They'd just run into a dead end, if he could even find anything. If he could even get in contact with anyone who could attempt to find anything.
It's fair. But he never did get those soil samples back, so it's a moot point.
Even then, I think it would have been a moot point.
I'm not gonna lie to you, Aaron, I forgot about him.
Fair enough.
That's just information that sometimes just goes and out of my head, and I do a good job of writing stuff down, but I don't collect everything.
It's fair.
Listen, no offense, but people here are yelling at me that I have apparently crap to do. So I think I'm just gonna have to get off here in like a few minutes because they're really hounding me. No offense, Grimith. I had a really fun time, and I would like to be to the end of this epilogue. I'm just being called away by people.
It's fine. Do you have any final parting words for us before you go, Jordan?
Besides, get fucked? No.
All right then. That's good for me, Jordan.
You guys have fun. Now is your chance to talk about how you really feel about Marcus Paulson, and I'm gonna watch this. And no, I'm not. Just have fun. I'll see you guys maybe sometime.
See you around, Jordan.
Later.
User disconnected from your channel.
The final few sessions, I will say, ended up being the most enjoyable for me, simply because of how I was able to relax, particularly the last two, Chapter 23 and Chapter 24, and watch the story, particularly the drama between Marcus and Joseph unfold before my eyes. That was great, and that's why I mentioned Chapter 23 was arguably one of the best sessions of the entire storyline, because of how I, as a storyteller, got to watch the story being told to me. And rather than it involve one of the cardboard characters I've tried to make you feel was three-dimensional, it was between you two. I really enjoyed that.
I have to say, it felt like near the end there, we just completely forgot about the whole original plot of finding a prince, and it just became us backstabbing each other a bunch.
And that's not to say that, David and Byron weren't a part of other moments, because a lot of the story was driven around the drama between your characters. It's just that, Joseph had reached the point where he was actually going to go about the process of smiting one of his coterie mates. And Marcus, through 3 tens on an Auspex roll, had managed to thwart that, and then the consequences that resulted. I think about other favorite moments. It all sort of blends in together in the grand scheme of things, simply because of how involved I get in the goddamn system and what I've been trying to do. Anytime you guys have been like, the wows or the holy shits or the flabbergasted or the flummoxed or the bedazzled or befuddled, that the times where you're like, there's just so much shit, you go, that's awesome. The unveiling of the snowman, which I feel ended up being the greatest sort of, the monster you guys ended up fighting. Because as I explained last week, more than the tentacle monster, this was a personal type thing that involved with you guys over multiple sessions. And not only that, it was in Joseph's domain, it struck down David, it struck down Marcus, Joseph fled in terror, Byron was the coterie's last salvation there, and if he had failed or if he had chosen to retreat, there goes the coterie. And
especially as we had no backup for that.
No backup. That was an on-your-own sort of situation. It was a fight came to your house because this creature is pissed as hell. Fucking pissed as hell. And now you see the inner mechanics of why the creature was pissed. An agent of Sevalod Cervini who had been hunting Leslie Cutter for Sevalod, who ended up failing to retrieve Leslie, and the coterie ended up resolving that through Germain, who then managed to capture one of the coterie to eat later after David escaped from it, only to find the fact that Marcus was gone out of the deep freezer. She lost her goddamn mind. She was infuriated, absolutely enraged. And that was a personal, where the whole moment, everything ended up being on Byron Rand's plate. Everything. I think, Byron is a legitimate candidate for the hero of the country. That's why, I rewarded him with the experience points and stuff. It's just, that's great that we had that moment there where it all rested on what Byron Rand did. And, Crimson was, kicking back and forth like, should I run? Should I not run? And we could jolt him and he could jolt himself into going for it. And the lucky merit there, it paid off.
Yeah, it's fair to say that Byron survived because he got lucky.
I think so. If nothing else, that definitely can be said about Byron, is he got lucky. People that he pissed off ended up dying, fortunately, and he came out not smelling like a rose, at least coming out better than he was.
And
he came out of it with higher status and coterie mate with the sheriff of New York.
And ultimately, as I was saying last week, and I definitely believe this too, Byron Rand is the winner of the coterie. Like, more than David Green, although on the surface, it appears he has share status. Byron Rand won. He completed, his objectives and goals, although he's been stymied. you know, in regards for like a short-term and a long-term thing, he has survived greater horrors than he has ever imagined, and he's come out on top of it with, you know, smooth sailing ahead, which is fucking unfathomable considering the hole that Crimson had dug for himself when he made his character. Because David Green sure as hell isn't satisfied. Not with what the hell's happened to him. Marcus Paulson is continually working towards that satisfied point, but he still feels guilt, as Jordan pointed out, over what happened with Kadir, which, you know, is rather pivotal. And Joseph is just sad. Joseph is sad.
I think a case could also be made for Jermaine having won.
Jermaine won as well. Because, as you said, he did just enough. But the flip is, I don't see Jermaine as a main character, because he was never a part of the coterie.
It's fair.
A character actor, I suppose a bit piece, who affect the story, but all bit pieces can affect the story as well. But he was never a part of the coterie, like David Green was.
He was just the guest star they brought in for the mid-season hiatus of David Green.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
Go ahead.
the actor playing. The actor playing David Green got pregnant. They had to bring a new person in for those for maternity leave, and you know, for about 3 months or so, and that's what happened.
I mean, they gave them a new name, they did all that sort of stuff, but they needed to fill a certain part in the script, so, you know. Anyway, I think I'm gonna go get dinner now. I really enjoyed this game, and I really enjoyed the epilogue, too.
Definitely. I like the answers that were given, and also I like the answers Grimith didn't give, because things like Vargas, I really honestly didn't want to know, so I'm glad he kept that to himself.
See, I really want to know, but that's why I'm glad that I don't. It's just one of those things.
I get it entirely. And yeah, 8 o'clock was my cutoff time too, so we're getting close to it. So.
It's like the willpower thing, right?
Yeah.
Is there any final input you got, Sean, or have you been muted this entire time? You fall asleep on us?
No, I think everything's been said.
Alright, in that case, I get... Is there any parting words for the viewership of YouTube, of which you are a part?
YouTube, just sit there and smile like a donut. I'll do everything else.
Yeah, I can't beat that.
User disconnected from your channel.
Everyone, we're out.